Welcome to the What You Know About It podcast. I'm your host, Rob Palacio. Today we'll be discussing overcoming obstacles and not letting life's hurdles stop you from achieving your dreams. I've been waiting for this interview for a long time. The What You Know About It podcast show is dedicated to reporting the current events, driving conversation, spreading the knowledge, entertainment, and shooting the shit with friends because I ain't got nothing better to do. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Andre Watson, clinical psychologist and author of the book, Vision in the Dark. Andre, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's wonderful to be talking with you. I am so proud to call you a friend.
Yeah, man, absolutely. How's the family, man? It's been a little while.
Everybody's great. The
Good.
life is good. My daughter is getting ready for first grade in the fall, so we are busy looking at schools, getting her prepared.
Wow.
Trying to get her skills up, and the wife works in a school for kids with emotional needs, so she's coming up on her home stretch for the summer, so we're looking forward to that.
Okay. Any plans for the spring break?
Not really, just spending time with the family, and we are just enjoying each other right now. We here in Philly, we just got hit with snow over the past few weeks, so it's the weather is breaking a little bit now. Today, I think it's going to be almost 70 degrees. So
Okay.
we are we're just welcoming the spring and maybe visit some family for the Easter break.
Okay.
But nothing big.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk to you about my Southern California weather. That's not even fair.
Yeah, I don't want to drink no haterade because I know every day is like a vacation over there. One time a woman told me she didn't even know why she went on vacation. She was from Cali.
Okay.
She said because when we come back, the weather is better at home than it was wherever we went.
Oh man. Yeah, you got to leave for other reasons. The weather isn't one of them. So people come here for the weather, but yeah.
Exactly.
But we met just for everybody listening to know, because once upon a time you chose me to narrate your book, which I thought was such an exciting and different project from anything I've ever done. And I felt so attached to it that, we actually bonded and became friends through that whole experience. But
Right.
the reason I asked you on is I wanted you to share that journey because you have such a unique journey. And I really feel that a lot of people, I don't want to minimize anybody, but we don't look at other people and other people's challenges sometimes, and we're stuck in our own box, and we don't see
Right.
that other people have other struggles that and they get through them, and you should sometimes use that as an inspiration, and you are an inspiration to me.
No, thank you.
The book is called Vision in the Dark. And for those that don't know, Dr. Watson is actually blind. He's a psychologist. You were an athlete in high school, and these are things that I would have to say. I remember going through this book, and I was like, "Wow, I wouldn't have done that. I'd have sat in the house." And
Right.
all these things that you were able to accomplish, or how your mom, you know, didn't just let you sit there defeated, because I actually have a blind person in my family, and that's kind of and a lot of things that you explained about sometimes guarding that person, keeping them safe, because your interpretation of what's safe and whatnot, you kind of project that on the other person. And you talked about that in your book, about just not succumbing to that and just actually, doing things like walking to work, walking to school, joining sports teams and things of that nature. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
My mother actually created she created me in so many ways that she probably wanted to she probably regretted later, because when I was a sighted kid
hmm
up to the age of 7,
hmm
she was tough.
Hmm.
She's a teacher here in Philadelphia, and she's also a coach. So when you got a teacher slash coach at home for a mom, that's like a drill sergeant.
Right.
So she always taught me to to never quit, to never give up.
Hmm.
And then when I lost my eyesight, all of those values had been instilled in me. And you instill those things in your kids by just you know having them do homework, not to quit on doing that. Figure things out when you're reading. Work on a math problem until you get it right. And that she didn't expect me or accept that I would quit at anything. So when I lost my eyesight, she said, "You're not going to quit," and I said I wasn't going to quit. And
Right.
she was tempted to be overprotective. Like a lot of parents want to be, they want to protect their children, but in
Hmm.
some ways, you could be hindering their own progress. And so yeah, so I was very, very blessed to have my mother, and I really think that her encouraging me to shoot for the stars regarding my education and sports,
Hmm.
the multiple sports that I've done and the places I've been, she she really instilled some qualities in me that many parents probably wouldn't be able to.
Right. What let me take it back for a second. What drove you into your profession, being a psychologist? What made you say, you know what? I've lived my life. This is what I want to study. I want to help people.
Uh, well, when I was in school, like high school, I noticed that people like to talk to me. I like to talk to them, and I spent a lot of time on the phone. Back in the days where there were no cell phones.
Hmm.
Um, my mom, even though she had pushed me really hard, she still was protective. So she thought, well, I can keep him from going out all the time by buying him a phone, his own separate phone line, which the phone company came out and put that in my bedroom. So
Hmm.
I had my own phone number,
Hmm.
so I could call until the cows came home. And I was also a good listener. And since my mom was so ambitious all the time, was what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want
Right.
to be? She told me, well, you can still be a doctor when you grow up, even though you're blind. And she says, there are actual doctors who are psychologists,
Oh,
and you can do that. And I thought, wow, that would be good for me. And that's what got me on the road to being a psychologist. And of course, before that, there were a lot of other things I wanted to be. I kicked around ideas of being a lawyer, uh, being a being a comedian, but my mom said I wasn't funny enough. Um, and or being a teacher, but my mom said no, you're not going to struggle like me. So
mm,
uh, so yeah, that was how I became. I started my interest began in psychology. It was based on my relationships that I had with people,
okay.
and based on the deep relationships that I had, and I knew how important they were to me and other people, and I think
Right.
I wanted to do that.
I think it's pretty interesting. Again, in the book, you mentioned something about um how you kind of get an edge because your clients feel like because you can't physically see them that you're less judgmental
Right.
of them. Did you see that going in as a plus, or did that just kind of happen and you go, "Oh, that actually works for me?"
No, I didn't anticipate that reaction. Um, and it's funny because that just happened recently with someone new. A woman said, I had some second thoughts because you were a man, but when I met you, I saw that you were blind. So I felt more comfortable with you. And so
Interesting.
safety is number one when you're meeting with people.
Right.
And I didn't think that was going to be an issue. I didn't think that was going to be to my advantage. I did have some experiences growing up where people thought, well, because you can't see, you might have some special powers, or you might be able to see into the future, or you might be able to hear things other people can't hear, like their heart beating or their thoughts.
Right.
Um, so I did understand that there was some mysticism or
Uh-huh.
some kind of like mystery that surrounds blindness.
Yeah.
That I kind of use that or allow that to open up a relationship with other people,
Right.
but I did not know that originally.
Right. If I'm trying to remember the book because it's been a little while since I read it, but uh, you were around the age of 9 when you started having vision problems.
Yes.
Okay, and like how walk me through your childhood, like some of the challenges or maybe some of the things that you found. Well, obviously everything would be hard right away, but maybe uh just as you started to learn your world, you're like, hey, or there's any little wins, significant wins that as you went through, you're like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. Is there anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And what really set the stage for that was that I was a child.
Hmm.
So wins were easier for me than if I was an adult. See, a child doesn't know that you're not supposed to be able to do stuff when you're blind,
Hmm.
you know. So when after I lost my eyesight, I was still trying to get on my cousin's bike and pedal.
Right.
And I did that, and I got on a scooter and went down the street, and I would still play video games. Actually, I used to love to play my Nintendo, my old school Nintendo, and ended a bunch of games on that Nintendo, like Mike Tyson's Punch Out
Hmm.
and Tecmo Bowl and uh, Tecmo Wrestling. There was all these different
Yeah.
games that you could play, and I ended up and so and and then when I got to school, when I had to change schools, um, I started realizing, wow, I can still use my mind,
Mhm.
and I started using mental imagery to do math
Mhm.
or to remember things. And my mom would say, he's got a great memory. And we would see people in the street. This was before cell phones. And they would say,
Mhm.
call me. And my mom would say, Andre will remember the number.
Mm.
And they would say it, and I would be able
Mhm.
to do it. And I realized that my mind was still intact. So I had uh, in my new school, I had to learn Braille. I had to learn how to
Yeah.
use new equipment. And I ended up doing a research paper, and
Mhm.
talking on a tape, and ended up winning. Um, and so there were like little things like that. I remember a
Right.
kid told me, um, overheard him talking about a contest in school. It was a pumpkin decorating contest, and he told
Mhm.
another kid, "Oh, I don't gotta worry about Donald. I don't have to worry about Christy,
Mhm.
and I don't gotta worry about Andre. I'm gonna win this contest because I guess you're gonna get like some kind of like candy bar or something." And I heard that. I thought I am going to decorate this pumpkin with everything I got,
Mhm.
and I ended up coming in first place in the school. And so there were like little victories like that,
Right.
being blind, which were great. And then I was able to tell myself, hey, not only am I still good, but I might be better than the other people around here who can see.
Right. Did you always was that because of your mom, like, you took things like that as a challenge rather than feeling slighted?
Absolutely, just I think just her mannerisms,
Mhm.
the atmosphere that she creates, always challenging, and not and she's a person who never will say no to a challenge. She brought me up to enjoy sports.
Okay.
So when we were sitting there watching, I think it was like maybe the 1988 Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins, and Doug Williams coming back to win. Little things
Uh-huh.
like that, little memories I have like that. Never give up. That was like our theme. And she would come home and talk
Mm.
about the kids that were special needs, but they would do all kinds of miraculous things, like win games in the gym class, and all the other kids thought they couldn't do it. So she would tell me those things. So it
Mhm.
wasn't uncommon for me to know uh, that you can still win, even when people think you can't. That's why you play the games. That's why we do this thing called life, because uh, you gotta actually do it. People can write you off, but we gotta see exactly
Right.
what happened.
So that was kind of like a natural transition into sports for you, huh? Like you just w- was there? I mean, I
Right.
don't know. I'm telling you, man. Like I literally I read your book and I was like, I would never try to wrestle or do any kind of martial arts or. And you did all that, and you didn't just do it. You did it on a higher level, you
Right.
know. So was that like just like, "Yeah, I'm signing up for the team. And it's fine," like anybody else?
I remember, yes, yes. I mean, in some ways, I was like, I'm going to do this. I heard that blind people have wrestled before me, and just being brought up in a home where sports was such a big deal, I really wanted to still do something. And I'm from a family where when they love you, they feed you, and they fed me
Hmm.
well.
We relate on that.
So by the time I was 15, I was a chunky little doughboy,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get involved in something. So when I went out and I asked my coach, I was scared. Yeah, I was definitely scared because I didn't know what he was going to say. But I was more scared that he was going to reject me.
Hmm.
But instead, Coach Flaxman, he welcomed it. He welcomed it and embraced me, and everything else took off. I really think that that's what helped me really take off in life. Was doing something that I thought I couldn't. I wasn't sure if I could do it. I wasn't sure if other people weren't going to accept, allow me to do it. And once I did that, I said, man, I could do anything. Sports are so important for kids. It's so, so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think sports is not just the fun, but you get the camaraderie out of it. You learn how to, you just learn about teamwork and just a bunch of different experiences that I think really help you. And like even with my own daughter, my daughter plays softball, and just seeing
Right.
her grow because now she's when she first started, it was like that little cute like hit the ball off the tee thing, and everyone's just kind of learning and nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
And now she's playing 8U, so it's getting competitive. The coach is actually yelling at them, and things are happening and stuff. And I've just seen the growth in her, so I can see how sports actually really does affect people, and it even teaches you how to take on challenges when things aren't working,
Right.
you know?
Oh
And
yeah.
it just seems yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that does nothing but enhance your character as a person. Um, you said also that you try to do everything like in terms of like going to prom, trying to date and talking
Hmm.
to girls and that whole experience and um again that that just blows my mind. I'm sure people listening to this podcast are like, wow, like this dude did not sit down for a second. You know, you definitely tried to have uh, a s I mean, I don't know if that's the right word to find a sense of normalcy or
Absolutely.
always keeping your independence. And you talk about things like going out to dinner and walking to work and all those things.
Right.
Um, the confidence to do that, man.
Yeah.
You know. Uh,
The thing was, is it's kind of like I was a part of an elite group called Sighted Folks at one point, and I was
okay.
told of all the things I could do, and then I was
Hmm.
taken out of that group, and I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute! It's like I lost my life,
Hmm.
like shoot for your stars card. Um,
Huh.
it's kind of like say, uh, you were, your say you had certain privileges in life, and then
Hmm.
there was something you lost, and then you didn't have those privileges, and you're like, wait a minute, I should still have that. I often think about it with, even in terms of color and race. Um, there's been a number of studies that talk about, just the different lifestyles that people have according to race or even class. And so when people
Hmm.
are part of the dominant race, they're people that are white or people that are, rich and have money. What they expect out of their lives is much different than some poor black kids. And And so I
Absolutely.
almost feel like it was a similar dynamic where I was told all the things I could be, and then socially, I kind of was not, I was told implicitly that I'm not part of that same class, and I resented that, and so I did want to go to
Hmm.
the prom. I wanted to, and I did. Not only did I go on my prom, but I went on my junior prom, my senior prom. I went on another young lady's prom. Went on a couple other young ladies' proms. Because they knew I was a nice guy. I tried to dance, have a good time,
Hmm.
and they told me that I'd be nice in their pictures. Um,
Hmm.
so I did that. I definitely would. I would go to a store. I would try to buy things. One of the things I did. I remember I bought my sister 10 balloons for her birthday. Um, and
Hmm.
people were shocked, like, you did that. I said, of course. Like, I still want to love somebody. I still want to do the things that are most important to me. Where if you're blind, people say, no, you don't worry about doing anything for anybody else. Well, you really do.
Right.
Um, you really do. If you're not helping people in life, and this is for anybody, if you're not helping
Hmm.
people in some way, you're not being blessed. It is a blessing in being able to help. And I was told that my role in life was the one to be helped, and that is true in some ways. But I also wanted to have some of the joys of doing things for myself and for others. The independence is so important in life, and even though many of us, depending on our abilities, may, some people may be able to do more than others, but as long as you're trying to do things independently, that's good.
Hmm.
Whether it's a kid that I'm treating who has autism and they're working on,
Hmm.
their parents pulling away so the kid can brush their own teeth, or whether you're
Hmm.
some business person trying to start your own, own business. That's what life is about.
Yeah.
Really pushing yourself and to be more than you were the day before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How long? What made you want to write that book, and how long did it take you to go through that
Oh boy.
process?
Um,
Hmm.
some years ago, I ran into a friend of mine, a guy I went to high school with, uh, Omar Barlow,
Hmm.
and it was during maybe it was like the 15 or 20 year reunion for high school. He said, "Hey, do you enjoy what you're doing?" And at that time, I had started to do some work as a consultant that I was not working directly for people. And he said, have you ever thought of writing your own book and talking to people about that and about your life and everything you've accomplished? I said, well, I never really thought about it. He said, I really think you should think about it. So uh, he and his wife and me and I talked about writing, and so that was kicked around probably. Let me think about that. It was probably in 2009. I think we talked about it. Or 2014. 2014. Yeah,
Hmm.
2014. And it took me several months. I had to think about it. Anything that I had to think about it, and then it took me several months to actually write it. Though it didn't take long to do a draft, and that was because I had such a passion, and I was at a job I didn't like. And the reason why I didn't like the job
Yeah.
was
Okay.
because I was constantly reminded that I was
Right.
blind. And there were not everybody, but there were certain people who were above me who really had a who really I could just tell, it's kind of like when you walk in a room, that people are uncertain about you. No matter what you do, you can outperform everybody, but still,
Right.
my disability was a factor in how they spoke to me, the projects they gave to me, um, and in many ways the respect. And so I had that really fueling me to put my story out on paper, and I've left that place since then to do what I wanted to do
Like,
now.
how do you draw that line between, I guess even to the person who's actually I don't know, dealing with the person with the disability, like, you get caught into a space where I'm trying to be nice, I'm trying to help, I'm trying to maybe make sure this person's okay, but yet in ways you may be
Right.
actually offending the person who's trying to, you know, contribute on their own and have their independence. Is that tricky, but with how you feel?
Oh yeah, it is. It is, and I'm very very
Mhm.
patient with people, and so I always recommend that if you see somebody blind or disabled and you want to help, you want to treat them like a person.
Okay.
You want to come up and say, "Hey, my name's such and such. How are you
Mm.
today?" And start a conversation and say, "Is there anything you might need help with, or could I get this for you?" And get allow it to be a choice. Sometimes people really do respond out of good intentions, and they just respond. And so it could be, somebody really trying to push me to a seat on the bus because they think that I should be sitting. Somebody actually grabbing me, walking down the street because they want me to avoid a puddle.
Right.
It could be somebody just to the point of like if I drop it, if they're trying to help me and instead of they're not giving me a choice, they're gonna go ahead and do it. And so
Okay. So pretty much always be conscious of the other person's choice and ask before you do anything.
absolutely, absolutely, and ask the person. When I go to a restaurant, it happens all the time. And if the waiter or the waitress realizes that I'm blind, once in a
Mhm.
while they will ask my wife, "What will he have?" And my wife will
I
say,
remember that in the book, yeah.
"Yeah." And my wife will say, "Honey, what will you have?" And I say, "Let me think about what he will have."
As because they're treating you as if you're not there.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Exactly. So I don't like to be missed or discounted, and but I try to have a sense of humor about it,
Mhm,
and also I like to try to keep an open dialogue with people. That yeah, you
mhm.
can come up to me and we can talk about it. We can talk about what it is that I might need. And so what I've done now is I carry the book everywhere I go. I have a copy of this book.
Awesome.
So when people do engage me on a conversation, I say, "Hey, would you like to read my book?" You don't know how many people I have blessed. I can see in that moment. They say, "Oh my God!" They read the title of the book and it says "Vision in the Dark" by Dr. Andre Watson.
Yeah,
They go,
it's a
"You're a
catchy title
doctor?"
too, I like it.
And I go, "Yeah."
Uh-huh.
And then they take it. And one guy, he came up to me recently on the street and he says, "Sir," he says, I go to a. He said, "I've been to a church where I can actually take you and they can help you get your eyesight
Uh-oh.
back and pray for you." Yeah.
Oh.
And I talk about this before. And I had book with me, and I was in line at the bus station to get a
Mhm.
bus ticket. And I said, "Hey, I think you might want to read my book." I said, "I am familiar with churches like that." I said, "I want to thank you for that." I said, "I want you to,
Mhm.
read my book." And I talked about that. And so he opens the book and he starts reading, and I get in line and I get my ticket, and he goes, "Oh my goodness, Andre, this is
Mhm.
amazing. Thank you so much for this." He had a chance just to read the back cover and maybe the introduction. Um, and it totally, I'm so happy because it totally gave me a voice to tell people that just because I'm blind, that doesn't mean God isn't blessing me. Just because I'm blind doesn't mean God isn't using me. Doesn't mean that my life isn't worth living. And I think a lot of times people think, "Wow, if I were blind, I'd give up." And I'm here to tell them no. And if you were blind, hopefully you would give life a good ass
Right,
kicking and give it everything
right.
you got.
That's true. I mean, it's one of those things where you can never really say what you would do because you don't that's not your reality. But you may feel a certain way. Like
Right.
I feel that way. I can't tell you how many times as we work through that book and we're having our chapter meeting, I would just read and I'd sit in a corner somewhere. I just wouldn't do anything. And it was like, and then like just even the things that we related on, similar things that we did, as children, because we're almost the same age, I was like, oh,
Right,
he did that too. How did he do that? Because if I were in the shoes, I'd be in the corner,
right,
like, and I kept going back to that
right.
reference of, like I said, I have an older cousin who is blind and she doesn't do anything,
Mhm.
because, and it's actually like,
Yeah,
we go see her and it's kind of like, let's go see her, and it's always like this really solemn, sad situation, you know, because she's so defeated
right,
and like we're kind of careful what we say and careful what we do and all that. And, you
right,
know, so that's kind of been my experience in with that type of thing. And maybe that's where I get, where I'm pushing my perceptions onto that situation, and then I meet you, someone who's accomplished things, who's chased their dreams. And I just remember like even going to my daughter, like, look, come
yeah.
here, read this. Look what daddy's reading. I know this man, like this man, and you're a great story for not giving up and not letting your situation dictate your life, you know? And even though things have
Yeah, thank
happened and yes, you may have a different path, you've still done the things that are good for your heart, and even sharing this book, like, I mean,
right,
even that in itself has to be somewhat scary to share your story, right? Like even me as a former musician, as a voiceover actor, so I've had moments where I'm like, oh man, like people are gonna hear this work of art that I've just done. That's scary. you
yes,
know?
yes,
And
yes.
yeah,
You're
you're
exposed,
exposed.
right? You're really
Yeah.
vulnerable and
And you've
exposed.
got a very intimate story.
And especially being a therapist, typically therapists don't share a lot about themselves with their patients.
Mhm.
And I usually don't, but I'm making myself accessible for other people.
Mhm.
So I definitely took a chance with that, and only because I think I've done my own work that I've been able to build some strength to do that. And I
Okay.
know that if I don't speak up, that I'm gonna be even more vulnerable in so many ways. Like I'm gonna be like if I don't speak up for myself, it's gonna set me up to really not be heard. You know,
Right.
and same thing with you as voiceover guy. If you don't follow your dreams and take a chance, then you wouldn't have done my book.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, the title Vision in the Dark is very telling of what this book is.
Yeah,
Um, and then you made a statement of I can't even remember exactly how you said it, so I'm probably not gonna get it right, but something about sometimes us with uh physical sight are actually the ones that are blind in terms of how we view
right,
things, and
right,
how through what's going to happen to you, you've been able to look inward and actually find that light,
right.
and I thought that blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Sight is a great thing to have. Uh, physical sight is a great thing to have, but we can't think that that's the end all and be
Right.
all.
There's more to see. There's more to
Um,
see. I guess was
and that life doesn't require much more from you in terms of what you know. And in psychology, we talk about something called
Mhm.
insight. Like an internal vision. And so yeah. So sometimes people judge each other by what they
Right.
see. You know, I remember when you and I
Mhm.
talked,
Yep.
right? I said, I'm looking for a voiceover guy, maybe where when he talks, somebody can kind of tell, he's articulate, but also he's a man of color. And I spoke to you about that, and then you told me your own story about where your parents are from. I hope it's okay to
Mhm.
mention your parents are from South America,
Mhm. Central America, Belize.
Central
Mhm.
America. Nobody would know that
Yeah.
when they look at you. You told me when they see you, they see a brother in
Mhm.
L.A.
Mhm.
So, that's in a way that your vision can just totally throw you off. They would never have known about your story,
Right.
or or how what the meaning of your name means.
Right.
Uh, and so sometimes we take physical sight and run with it,
Right.
and instead of asking questions
Yeah.
and having some curiosity and humility.
Mhm.
I really think that being blind has made me humble in many ways. It's made me humble. It's like I can't make assumptions about people because of what they look like. I can't. I have to
Right.
ask questions.
Right.
And so I think that was one of the things, getting back to that previous job I had.
Mm.
I heard people doing it, psychologists doing it all day, making assumptions about people based on how they look, or just one little thing they said, or some stereotype.
Mhm.
And that is where that's where the problem is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we definitely um take it for granted sometimes, we just it's impulsive almost, and
Would you say almost
I
what?
said it's almost impulsive, because we're just so used
Right,
to, you know, using our vision and not our other senses or feelings, or just digging
right,
deep sometimes into things, and even in ourselves, and I think so. That's what I'm saying, from so many different perspectives, this book
right.
delivered for me. And I don't know if that was your intention, if you were just trying to tell your story, but there's so many little nuggets of things in this book, you know? And I mean, I can't say enough about it, and that's why I wanted to bring awareness to it. That's why I wanted to share your story, because I just thought
Thank you.
there's so much good stuff. And I was bragging to people about it, not even about that I did the voiceover work, or I did an audiobook, or it was like I came across this story and this guy, and it's such an inspiration to me, just me personally, and so I try to turn people onto it as much as possible. Um, Before we close this out, Andre, anything you want to share about your book, or anything?
Well, I do want to I want to thank you for doing the voiceover for me. I've gotten a lot of great compliments and reactions to the audiobook on audible.com, and I'm working on new things
Mhm.
um, to expand from that, because I appreciate that my story has been a blessing. So very soon I'll be starting visioninthedark.com,
Ooh.
and so there I plan to do some really exciting things.
Okay. Anything you can
What
share?
would you say?
That's anything you can share?
Well, I'm thinking about just sharing my story in all different kinds of ways, and also in doing lessons
Mhm.
based on my story. Um, you know, and hopefully it could be a site of for a resource. I'm hoping to get that up and running over the next month or so.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
That sounds good. And you also have physical books available, right, for purchase? And where can
Yes,
people find
yes.
that?
The books are through Amazon and also through Kindle.
Okay. So Amazon, Kindle, you can find the physical copies. Audible.com is where you can find the audio book.
Yep,
And it's called Vision in the Dark.
yep.
Yeah.
Thank you
Andre,
so
thank you
much.
for giving me time today to interview you, man.
I appreciate it. I could go on and on forever, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Uh,
we could have this conversation all day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something dear to me, and it helps me become grounded. So it helps me
Hmm.
uh, maybe more than it helps you. It is so nice for people to be able to tell their story.
Hmm.
And I think as I tell my patients the same thing. Uh, a lot of my patients say I tell my story. I say, well, because we're shaping who you want to be,
Hmm.
and who you are, and making you grounded in that. And so it always helps me to become grounded again in the person that I want to be, the person that I am.
Right.
and what I can be for other people.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I still trying to get out there. You gonna come out to New York soon?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to see what's gonna happen with that gig I was telling you about. Um, so I need to get that situated. I'm supposed to hear from them sometime soon. And as soon as I do, I do plan on it. There's
Let
no
me
way I'm
know.
getting on that side of the America and not, calling you. So don't worry about that.
Right. Good, good, good. And I'm not sure when California is going to be on our list, but definitely if you come to New York, I can easily get there.
Mhm.
So just let me know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
All
All
right.
right, Andre. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming
and
on.
just let me know when you air it.
I will. I will. What you know about a podcast, y'all?